To be and not to be, of course, but tonight a man. I sat on the right end of the first row, very near to her as she came downstage, alone and soliloquizing, wishing that her too-sallied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. I was trying hard to relinquish myself to the illusion of the stage, trying to forget who in life this was before me. To my surprise, this was not difficult. Isabel Cobb was indeed a man. She was a small and slim Prince Hamlet, her hair cut shoulder-length and dyed dark blonde and worn loose and wavy, as a young man of the time might, being hatless in distracted grief. And though my mind knew how tightly my mother was wrapped inside her black doublet, and though I recognized her voice, which was always low and a little husky even as a woman, and though I recognized those vast dark eyes as the maternal origin of my own, she convinced me. And I wondered, did she convince herself? Perhaps. I heard no tang of irony in her voice as she, being a man, a son, railed against a mother's hasty sexuality. And though this Hamlet before me was believably his own man, he and his qualms reminded me of my mother. Not that I shared the prince's vehemence. But as he rolled the word frailty in his mouth like an overripe grape and then named it woman, stirring the suffragettes in the crowd to a titter, I stopped seeing the play. I lifted my eyes from Hamlet's indictment of his mother and looked up, far up into the fly galleries, uniquely visible to the residents of the front row, and to the catwalk there, its pin rail wrapped with thick hemp ropes. The catwalk was empty, and my mind lifted much farther than the flies. I stood outside a room in the Gilsey House in New York, though it could have been a room in any of 100 hotels or boarding houses around the corner from 100 theaters and 100 cities on the headliner circuit, where one of the great stars of the American stage and her son lived while she worked. The star was my mother, and she was my father, too, my Gertrude and King Hamlet both, though my actual father was no king, was not even a ghost, was an unknown to me to this very day. But what son needed a father with a mother who could convincingly become anyone? This flash of memory, me standing in the hushed and carpeted hallway of New York's Gilsey House, could have been any from a multitude of memories of my childhood or adolescence in any of those other hotels. But in the front row of the Duke of York's it was the Gilsey, and I'd just turned 13 and my cheek was still damp from her kiss, and she expected me, as always, to understand that she was about to shut the door in my face and send me away. It had been thus for as long as I could remember. I was much younger than this when I'd first been cooingly sent away from her door. And at the Gilsey House her leading man had pitched in, had given me a wink and a nod and a good lad, and her play, what was it, a Clyde Fitch, perhaps? I'd run a tryout month in Boston where I'd been bid a similar affectionate adieu in the hallway outside a room in the Hotel Turan with a different leading man. And I liked this Boston guy okay, and I thought he and I would have this understanding for as long as the play ran, which everyone hoped would be at least a year in New York. Well, the producer canned him before the play left Beantown, and this guy at the Gilsey was a new wink and a new nod. My mother always seemed to have a hasty hankering for her leading men, and I always seemed to be seeing them off together at a hotel door and then turning and walking away, having quickly learned not to linger, not to listen. All this ran quickly and hotly and stupidly in me from the front row of the Duke of York's, so it took me a moment to realize what I was looking at. The guy from the alley was on the catwalk. Once I focused on him, I could picture the last few moments. He'd eased out slow to a place at the rail, and now he squared around to look down to the stage where Hamlet was finishing his soliloquy, bidding his heart to break. And this guy had a real intense interest in this Hamlet, who was my mother. I had a real intense interest in him. I concentrated on his face as he watched Hamlet greet Ophelia with feigned madness. I wanted to read his eyes, but they were a little too far away, and I wasn't looking straight into them. But the stillness of him